Well, welcome. Today, you're going to learn in today's podcast. We're interviewing Eric Rozenberg, best-selling author of Meeting at Sea Level. That's C like cat, sea level. So if you're interested and you want to learn how to get to C-level executives, you need to listen in. Welcome to the Ugly Truth About Sales podcast, live out of Miami, Fort Lauderdale, hosted by me, Victor Arocho. This podcast is about the reality, sales perceptions, execution, and the hollow statements that entrepreneurs, CEOs, and sales professionals make. We're going to discuss how to get past these ugly truths by taking some action. We interview successful entrepreneurs like Eric, executives and sales professionals who share their experience about how they've succeeded by following best practices to grow their businesses and the other businesses they're running today. If you haven't, please follow me on Twitter at Victor Arocho and at V Arocho, and on YouTube, Victor Arocho, as well as my website, victorarocho.com. That's AROCHO. And today's guests, we have Eric Rozenberg. Eric is an entrepreneur, speaker, and best-selling author. His book, Meeting at Sea Level, an executive guide to driving strategy and helping the rest of us figure out what bosses want us to know. And this is his first book on why of a meeting. Sorry about that. It has been endorsed by over 20 of the most influential leaders from corporate and association worlds. Eric has helped thousands of independent planners, individuals grow and manage their businesses better for 2 decades. Eric, in a previous life, has consulted with Fortune 500 companies and produced conferences in more than 50 countries and associations worldwide. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Victor. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Other than trying to get through all this new technology going live, it's pretty interesting.
You're doing great. I was impressed.
This will be re-recorded, and we're going to go through the things that succeeded in your life, and you'll understand where the ugly truth about sales is how people make. It was great. I learned from somebody telling me hollow statements that everybody says that sounds smart in business, but they don't actually execute on.
Right.
Makes sense. Okay, yeah. So now Eric, just so you know, Eric is this now. He also has another company. He is the CEO of SecuTix.
SecuTix in the US.
SecuTix in the US, the most advanced ticketing engagement platform on the planet. And he is the president and CEO of Event Business Formula, the first online platform dedicated to helping event business owners manage and grow their business and get a life.
Yep.
So Eric, how are you doing today?
Very good. Thanks for the introduction. You know, the book and everything that was from a previous life when I was in the planning meetings all over the world. The meetings and events world and the ticketing world, there's a lot of overlap, which is what I'm enjoying now with SecuTix. And yes, it is an amazing platform. It's basically 18 years of development in Europe. The technology is just amazing. And it's basically helping venues and organizer to engage better with their fans. It's a software as a service solution. It was built as such from day one. We've integrated as well blockchain technology in the delivery of the ticket. I mean, the technology is just amazing, but the bottom line is it's helped venues to sell tickets to their fans. And we worked for the Champions League, for the Ryder Cup in Europe, for amazing organization and venues. It's just mind-boggling.
When you sell tickets, like selling, they come to you to sell the tickets for their events, for their business conferences. How do you differ from Ticketmaster?
Well, it is, if you want to make a comparison to make it very simple, it would be a like Ticketmaster, except that the technology is just stunning. And as I was saying, we've been built as a software as a service from day one. We're white label, so people don't know our brand, and we're not there to push our brand. And the clients, the venues, the organizers, they own their data. So they don't have to beg anybody to get access to their data and to basically speak and engage better with their fans directly. So that what makes the technology absolutely stunning.
So if I'm hosting my own conference or my own show or my own speaking engagement, I can go white label through SecuTix, right, and sell my tickets to the event through your system.
In theory, yes, but if you do a small event, it's probably not the cheapest solution
I'm not
because
talking about. I want to sell out the American Arena, baby.
well, in that case, we can talk.
All right.
But it's really for venues and big organizers, and obviously it's a tailor-made solution. But from the moment that we work with clients, they have let's say at least 100,000 tickets a year. Then it's become extremely interesting. And as I was saying, technology amazing, SaaS solution, blockchain technology for the delivery of the ticket, owning your own data, and so on and so forth. So it's just amazing what they've been developing the last 18 years.
Excellent. You know, that's an example of the ugly truth, right? So when people say entrepreneurs need to be persistent and be focused on what they really believe in, I heard you right. It said 18 years in development.
That's absolutely correct.
So that pretty much from the day my daughter was born till today, that's when this technology came true. And it goes back to, you know, it's easy to say to be persistent. It's easy to say to believe in what you believe in the dream, but you have to do it, right? So, oh, you have to be persistent. You hear that all the time, but then, you know, people surrender, they give up. So that's kind of where we're heading here. So let me get into a couple questions that I have for you, and you tell me, so what drives you to continue creating new companies? Because you've had several companies.
Right. And just to make things very clear, I didn't create SecuTix at all. The story is quite amazing. And to your point, 18 years ago, it's basically the founder of the mother company of SecuTix is the largest private IT integrator in Switzerland, probably in Europe, but it's been a 50 years company, 50 years old company. And 18 years ago, out of all the companies, the Swiss railway company came to them and said, could you help us build a database so that regardless of the mountain, any Swiss person buying a train ticket, that we can aggregate that and have it in one place. So they really went into the cloud without knowing it. And then a music festival organizer came to them. Now we're selling 200,000 tickets in 52 minutes for them. So all those verticals came. And to your point, it takes a lot of time. But 5 years ago, the mother company was bought by a friend of mine and some of his investors. And they've been turning this company like it was the best kept secret, if you want. And now it's just the beginning. So yes, it's 18 years. And yes, you need persistence and grit and vision. And we are just at the beginning. So awesome. I didn't create the company. Just want to make this clear from the beginning.
I didn't really mean create, but you're, right. You know, you got the entrepreneur spirit, like you're heading up US.
Right.
You know, I didn't create sales, right? But I have a sales development company. I didn't create insurance, and I owned an insurance company, right? But you're still the entrepreneurial mindset to get this going in the US.
Yes, and that's true that I opened North America for them. It's not that I want to create companies. It's just a mix between serendipity of life and enjoying what I'm doing. So we moved from Belgium to the US with my family 6 years ago. And yeah, I've been doing several projects, but this one was like, wow, amazing technology, a huge market to be disrupted, that needs new technology, that needs to be changed. There's a lot of things that need to be changed in this world. And the excitement of working with innovators and with entrepreneurs, that's really what drives me. It's not that I'm saying now I have to start another company, but from the moment that or I've sold companies or I'm getting bored or it's really becoming too difficult to work with people, It's always the same: lead, follow, or get out of the way. And
Exactly.
that's what I'm trying to do now.
But that happens, right? If there's an opportunity that you see that you could do better, and it's synergistic with what you do, um, it's easy. It's not that it's easy. That's another false truth. But that's a path a lot of times entrepreneurs want to take because then they're putting in the same work, right?
Yep.
And running parallel, right? With depending on the networks and meeting and so forth. So now my next question is, have you heard, this is where I get into the people state and say, have you heard people talk about culture or communication, anything that did not have to do, or anything that they talk about, but they didn't back it up with the execution or implementation?
Do we have like 3 days to talk?
No, we got a little bit of time. I know you
Oh
got
no.
family, you got some family time in soccer. So, but now you know where I'm going with this show, right? I'll give you a quick example and then I'll stop. You can't manage what you can't measure. I think you and I told you that's, so everybody will say that, right? And then I'll go into companies, with my company as a transformation sales company, and they have a CRM and they're not measuring anything, so therefore they're not managing. That's an example how you could be in a room and someone could sound smart and say that, but they're not really doing it. And for example, finding a better way to have a selling tickets, to have access to data. Everybody always talks about data, but for some reason they're more enamored with the Facebooks and the Amazon than understand you should control your own data.
Correct.
So
You're definitely
give me
right.
an example of something you heard that people say and they just don't do as it relates to either prospective clients or just entrepreneurs in general, or anything with your company or your experiences.
Yeah, I've met, fortunately not many, but several companies that would, you were talking about culture and communication. They have this beautiful values and mission statement when you get at the reception of the company. And then you deal with the people on the daily basis and you wonder if they even read those values. So there's the total discrepancies between what people say and walk the talk. And so it's not only about, and the intention is good, and that's important, to know what your values are, and most importantly, to develop the culture. But I would say two things about that. The first one, you need to make sure that you have the buy-in from everybody, and coming back to it every single week, giving example of so and so in the team that really lived the value because of that example, and share that. And the second thing, to me, it's an ongoing battle. You don't build a culture with email or with text or with Slack. You build a culture with conversation, and it's one person at a time. And it's not only one conversation with one person. The same person, you have to have regular conversation. So building that culture, yes, it's based on communication, but it's really going back to it, making essential to your company. And that will have an impact on your sales, and that will have an impact on how your customer are talking about you, and that will have an impact about the most important thing before the customer is your team. If your team is aligned, then the customer will perceive it, will feel it, and will be happy with that.
And I go back to, you gave a great example. This is what I want to do, is bring those things up. You gave great action items of how to drive a culture, but it goes back to people state, everyone talks about culture, and I understand that, but don't let a culture create itself. You have to drive the culture, number one. But number two, I also look at it as, the culture stuff started really coming out with technology companies like Google, and they had, playtime and all of this kind of stuff. But, sometimes the culture, don't get so enamored in your culture until everybody's on board with it, right? So that's number one. And number two, you have to make sure they're living, like you said, living that culture. So for example, we've had a client where we were determining to release some of their salespeople, and well, they kind of fit into our culture. I'm not sure they're a good culture fit. So when I went through their 5 values and 5 cultures, every single one of them, they weren't living up to as they were doing in their sales. So, I mean, this is what you're defining culture X, so I don't want to give it out. And how do you see that they're doing it? They're not doing this. You're holding accountable. Well, they're not doing this as it related to, the sales part of it. I wasn't going into the other departments,
Yeah.
right?
But to your
And
point
one thing
about,
I used to do was also tell, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, sorry, go ahead.
What I used to also do in several of my companies, I would mandate that at any given time, if I asked you what are the values of our company, and I would give you three chances, and if you three chances during out the course of the time, if you weren't able to answer those, I'd send you home.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a point where, if you're not living it, your customers are going to feel it, right? And then you don't believe in it. So I expect people to know, everyone should know the culture. And it's easy to say, I want to build a great culture, but just be careful that, not be careful, execute on the items that you've just suggested. And we'll write that down later.
That's the thing, is knowing the values and understanding the culture, and in the execution is living it. Mm-hmm. And I remember years ago, there's the former CEO of SAS Airlines, Jan Carlson, wrote a book called Moment of Truth. And he was the CEO of the airline. He said, the most important person in the airline is the first touch point with the customer is the person at the check-in desk. Mm-hmm. And to your point in sales, you are the touch point for the company with the customer.
Right. And then also the fulfillment side is the touch point either. We're the first touch point, but if sales is, let's say sales live in the culture they should live, right? And then you sell a product, and then the culture goes to the fulfillment or customer service or so forth. If they're not living the culture, the vision, the mission, absolutely, there's going to be a disconnect, right? Look, Eric, I love you. Victor, I love you. And problem is, I do business with you. I trust you. I can't get people on the phone, right? Yeah. If I do get them on the phone, they hold. So that's the point of everybody's got to understand that culture. And that starts from the top, right? And then you already gave us some good pointers on how to implement that. And how are you making sure, and this may be redundant, but how are you making sure that this is not happening to you, right? That you're making a statement on culture or communication. And so what is it you're doing to make sure that you can avoid those, and the audience can understand, look, if you're going to make a statement, whether it's culture, accountability, these are the things that you got to make sure to not get caught in.
What do you mean get caught in? That
how did you make sure this didn't happen to you?
I'm not sure I understand the question. What doesn't happen to me?
That you didn't make a statement about culture, and then
I got it.
Go. You gave some answers before, but I want to see if you can expand a little bit on that.
Well, it's the 360 approach, internal and external. Internally is listening to the team you're working with. The worst thing I've ever had is a person that I was dealing with. They will look at their team and said, imagine, Victor, you're talking to your team and you say, what do you think we should be doing in this case? Because I believe we should be doing that. Right. So if you ask the question, I say, shut up, listen. If you tell people what they should be answering, then basically you're not checking whether they have understood, and most importantly, if they agree and going to live through it. So I would say internally, it's making sure that you're creating an environment where people feel safe to disagree, to ask questions, to make mistakes, as long as they don't keep doing the same mistake. But to make mistakes and feel okay to listen, you know what, I screw up there. Let's review this and share with everyone the good thing and the mistakes as well, so that it's not repeated. So to create such an environment takes a lot of time. But it started with the head for sure. That's the first checkpoint, if you want, that I have. The second one is the customer, and the customer perception is always right. If you have a customer that is complaining about something, then listen to it, check whether it's reality what happened. But we had a situation with one of our customer support person that basically was not answering appropriately to the customer, and making almost the customer look like you come on, you don't understand that. It was corrected once, it was explained twice, and then that person is not dealing with the customer anymore, and not dealing with our customers. So that's something that again, leading by example, walking the talk. Those are the little things that makes the total image and the total perception from the customer.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the one thing I've always learned is that if you tell someone something, they're not going to learn it as much as if you ask them to tell you.
That's for sure.
Right? It retains more. So that's excellent. The second question is, what are some of your biggest challenges in sales? Right, whether in the several companies that you had, where did you see that some of there's so many aspects of sales? What would you say were some of the biggest challenges?
That's a very good question. I would say two main challenges. The first one is me, the way I explain things. For instance, how do I explain? It's a ticketing engagement platform. This is what it is. It's on the logo. It is explaining what it is, as long as you are in the ticketing business. But if I'm explaining that to people who are not in the industry, or the best test is, does your kids understand what you're doing? And that you have to use very simple example. That's the challenge, is explaining in a very simple way what you're doing. And I'm telling you that because quite recently, actually, a friend of mine told me, you always talk about the ticketing engagement platform. I'm not in your industry, so I'm not sure I understand it the first time, and I'm not sure everybody understands the same time. So that's one thing. The second main challenge in every sales situation for me is making sure that I'm talking to the person who's making the decision, or which is at least part of the decision-making team. And I've experienced too many times that you get excited, the person in front of you is asking more question. Oh, that's great, and you can do this, and we can do that, and it's wonderful. And can you send a proposal? Absolutely. And then you call him or her, and you don't have an answer immediately. And then say, well, there's other person that I need to talk to. And then you realize that that person actually is not even in the team making the decision. Right. So making sure that you are talking to the right person in terms of decision making is very important.
And that's a great point. That goes back to another ugly truth. Everybody tells you you need to be able to talk to the people or the person or the group that can say yes, not to someone who can only say no. Right? So that's number one. Number two, I have a podcast I'll send to you on elevator pitch. Right. So for a quick pointer to take away, the way we teach it is, you want what we call as a positioning statement or your opening statement, who's your target, right? And what kind of frustrations or common problems they have in that target, right? And target and how do you got your target, your emotional feeling to a common problem that they're having. Right. So that's it. That's your first 10 seconds was the elevator pitch. And then your unique value proposition is always predicated on the outcomes, the great outcomes that utilizing your service can help somebody else. And there's your 30-second elevator pitch, right? Boom. And that's it. And then one question that I always teach to ask people, and hopefully this helps you out, because there's so many aspects. There's stuff that I'm still learning. So I haven't created, there's nothing new under the sun, but this is all I do, right? I study. I always ask somewhere in your sales process, and that's key to have a sales process, is Eric, who other than yourself will be involved in making this decision?
Very good question.
Period. I want to know. Who else other than yourself is involved? And then knowing the process. Okay, great. What is your process of making that decision? Is it by committee? Because today, especially at your size sale, it's like 5 to 7 people that are making that decision.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like it's one person before. It's not just the CEO. There may be one person signing the check, but they're doing a collaborative decision.
Absolutely.
So that's great. The next one is, how do you think why do you think companies, in your experience or experience with entrepreneurs that you know, spend so little money on investing in sales, leadership, and management?
It's a very good question. I've never found the answer yet. It's beyond my understanding.
Mm-hmm.
As I always remember that this, it's half a joke, half a story with a morale that says you have the CFO and the CEO that are speaking with each other, and they're talking about the cost of training people. Excuse me. And then the CFO said, imagine we train those people and they leave.
Oh, I've got that all the time.
And then the CEO goes, imagine we don't train them and they stay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So they're not attuned with reality. They're not improving. They're not developing personally. And then I would think that your company is not developing either.
Right.
So
Yeah, okay.
I've seen it. I've seen it in the meetings and event industry, and that's a different story. Probably because they're, you know, a lot of the hotels are inviting you to see the property. A lot of trade show are doing what it's called a hosted buyer, where you basically, as a buyer, you've flown and your hotel is paid, and your participation is paid as long as you have a certain number of appointments. But people don't. It's not even expecting your company to train you. In this world today, I think everybody should ask themselves, not only in sales and particularly in sales, but everybody should ask themselves,
Agree.
what do I do to be a better person, to be a better professional, and not waiting for the company to pay for training, but actually invest yourself,
Yeah,
invest
self-development.
yourself in yourself. Absolutely.
Yeah, Benjamin Franklin, there was a statement he said, if you put the coins in your purse, back then they call it purse, if you put the coins in your purse into your mind will fill your purse with coins.
Nice.
Right? And so that's that's just a comment I made. The other thing that you made a good point was what I always stated, that I want to train armies of managers, right? Of sales managers, because there's leadership, there's management, and then there's sales leadership and management. And they're distinctively different, and there are some parallels, right? But sales in itself, we're different people. We're needy, we have big egos, right? We want to be stroked. We want to know that our bosses feel that we're doing a good job. We're measured by numbers all the time. So a lot of times they put the best salesperson into a sales management role who's never been taught management.
Yep.
And then he's got people that report to him that were his peers. It's no different than in the police, the fire department, in military. It's a hard time for people to be friends and now having to take order and now holding them accountable. Right. So that's where my problem is the money being spent there, because, you know, your technology background, your people be trained on technology, on efficiencies, on management. But the other thing I wanted to make a statement on, because this has been asked for me a lot of times, if you train all these people, then they leave. But if you put a process and sales process in place that you're constantly developing talent, I expect people to come and take them from my company.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And if they do, they do. There's nothing, if I don't have an opportunity, it's not my fault. But because we have the process and the system down, okay, I'm just going to build more soldiers, more sales professionals, more sales leaders. I have people leave and come back. The other thing is, just like you said, you're not sure why they're not spending the money, or the CFO or the CEO feels, well, they may leave us. That's my point. If they take someone from one of my clients or my company that we've trained and they go over there and they don't have a training process in place, good luck, because that person's not going to advance. So why do you care?
Yeah, and to your point, it's not only the training part. Obviously, is the culture. You can have the best training, but if you don't pay people appropriately, or if the culture is terrible, then you can get the best sales training. It will not be enough. So and that's the first thing. And the second thing, and I see it for us in ticketing, we can have the best sales relationship, and I enjoy tremendous relationship with our customers. At the end of the day, if the program is not working, or we don't help them set up new events, new sales, or train new people that are coming on board, it's not going to work. And you can put the best smile on your face and you can get the best deal to your customer. If you're not delivering, that will not be enough.
Well, yeah, that goes back to, a sale is a promise to deliver.
Yeah.
And then, just my point though, from my perspective, the way I look at it is, if I'm bringing in the sales, right, and your culture in the back end and your stuff isn't fulfilling, that's your problem. That's the CEO's problem. So you got a choice. So sales training does work. If we're bringing in that stuff and your culture in the back end, the fulfillment in the back end isn't working, I'm leaving. Right? And if I'm getting developed and trained, and now for me, training is about transformation, making you continually improve to becomes a habit. But if you're going to invest in yourself, like we were talking about, and you're going to make your sales, or you're going to make your money, but it's not getting fulfilled in the back end, that salesperson should leave.
Absolutely.
Right? Because now we're doing the opposite. That company is investing in sales training. Now you're not investing in customer service training. You're not investing in leadership training. You're not investing in fulfillment training. Right? So, yes, one goes with the other, but the sales training, in my opinion, and my experience, is separate function, but especially from the leadership side and the management side. That's where I've seen, and statistically, the least amount of money spent on that. And even in the colleges where I lectured, it's they don't teach the fact that you have to be a coach, a psychologist, a motivator, and then you have to be the person who has to make sure you're taking care of your sales team. And then I have to be the person that also is understanding the executive side from an economic and a financial and a culture perspective.
Absolutely.
So you're in the middle, like you're selling two pieces. And without that type of training, it becomes very difficult. And the sales manager leaders are thrown into that position. One, they're either going to leave, or two, they're going to keep making excuses, and they may lose good people. So the next question I have for you is, what's the last book you read, or the book you're reading now?
I actually read last week, and I recommend that you don't start that book before going to sleep, because you're not going to sleep until it's finished. It's from Oren Klaff, and it's the book Flip the Script.
Really?
And he's the one who wrote Pitch Anything. And it was actually recommended by a friend of mine from my forum. And it's just amazing. First of all, it's written like a novel, like a business thriller. And it's just amazing how he's making deal and writing about the situation. But the whole methodology, the whole approach, it's to the point, it's very effective, it's giving great example. So I couldn't put it down. So it's called Flip the Script.
Flip the Script. And who's the other?
Oren Klaff.
Oren Klaff. Okay, now you
Klaff.
got it.
Klaff.
Klaff.
Sorry, that's my accent. Klaff. Klaff.
Klaff. Okay, awesome. Right. I'm actually reading right now, Key Person of Influence. And that was a book that we had our all-member chapter. I don't know if you were there. It's Kevin Harrington recommended it, and Karen Harrington was the founder of As Seen on TV, and he was fantastic. And he had to keep diversifying because things changed. People stopped watching TV. They were watching, DVR, and then the papers were going down. So the book is actually very, very good. It teaches you, it helps you with your pitch, right? It really helps you with your pitch to get people excited about what you do. So I read several books at the same time, and audiobooks, but that's one that I'm zoning in on. And Eric, if people wanted to get in touch with you or reach out to you to ask you some questions, or ask you questions about your company or experiences, and the new company that seems excellent to disrupt the market that we have today, how can they get hold of you?
I'll give you the email from the company. It's eric.rozenberg@SecuTix.com. It's Eric, ERIC, .Rozenberg, ROZENBERG ENBERG at SecuTix.com, and SecuTix is SecuTix.com, or you just go on LinkedIn.com/in/Eric Rozenberg in one word.
Okay, great. So
Rozenberg with a Z.
Rozenberg with a Z.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I want to learn some of the things from you and writing your book. I really appreciate you coming out on our podcast. Looking forward to having you again and see how your ventures are going. Again, SecuTix, right?
SecuTix, yes.
SecuTix.
It comes from secure tickets.
Secure tickets. So SecuTix.
SecuTix.
Company.
Yeah.
Eric Rozenberg, a friend of mine, entrepreneur, super successful, best-selling author. I'm Victor Arocho again, victorarocho.com. You can reach me out there, ask me any questions. You can find us on YouTube. This is live right now on Facebook, so please post any comments or questions for both either me or Eric. Both of us will answer to them. We will answer them. If you have questions or you got big events, please look at SecuTix. They seem to have the technology and everything down. After 18 years, I think they got it down at this point. So I want to thank everybody for listening in to the ugly truth about sales, of where don't make those hollow statements, and walk the walk, okay, that you talk. Don't just talk the talk, and don't make frivolous statements. My name is Victor Arocho. Eric, thank you again, and looking forward to talk to you. We will see you soon. We have a few more live broadcasts coming this week, and every Friday at 11:45 or 11:45 up to 12 p.m., we start a new podcast that I always release, and it's with another good friend of mine, mentor, multi-millionaire, Stephen Running, and we talk about all sales. He's a sales development. He's got a executive talent asset firm, and he does training every morning, every day, and I learned a lot from him. So you'll see scripts, you'll see how to target market, everything you could think of. So look out for YouTube, 11:45 p.m. every Friday, a new episode is released. And look for this episode to be released on YouTube very soon. And Eric, God bless and have a great, great day. And
thank you.
I want you nothing but success, my friend.
Thank you, Victor. Same to you.
All right. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.